My good friend Bacon explained the experience of watching Iron Lung and then Return to Silent Hill as a good meal followed by a bad time in the bathroom, and I can't even dispute that. That's exactly what this was. Hiya, my name is Poke King, but you can just call me King, and today you are probably wondering a few things. One of which is probably, why am I making this video so late? It's been about a month since these movies have come out, and yes, you are correct, but hear me out. School got out of hand really fast as it's my final semester at college, and then right when things started to get a bit bearable, I got sick for a whole last week. I am finally feeling better now, so I can record this, but yeah, the universe really did not want me to make this video apparently. This just means that y'all are gonna have to promise to like and comment on this video because the algorithm will not be kind to me for this one. You might also be asking why I'm combining two movie reviews in one video, and that is because I think the contrast between these two movies needs to be studied. Both are movie adaptations of horror video games, however, one is incredible and has changed the filmmaking industry as a whole, and the other is the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. Also, I feel like if I make this one big video, I have a higher chance of actually making reviews of these movies because originally this was only going to be about Iron Lung, but then I watched this piece of shit and now we have to talk about it. Now, Iron Lung and Return to Silent Hill came out about a week apart here in Canada, but I didn't even know Return to Silent Hill was coming out at all, let alone when it did. It's funny to already start comparing these films, but Iron Lung's marketing was done entirely from word of mouth from Markiplier, which I get. I do subscribe to him and I am a fan of his, but when the Return to Silent Hill trailer apparently dropped, I had been on an entire Silent Hill binge watch. I was watching many Let's Plays of Silent Hill 2 and also lore breakdown videos, and my entire YouTube feed was Silent Hill, and not once did I see this movie trailer or news about it pop up anywhere. I literally only found out about it when my friend who I mentioned at the beginning of this video, Bacon, sent me a link to the trailer, and I was like, what the fuck is this? I have no idea what the hell happened to the marketing of this movie, but I didn't see a single word about it when it was being developed or talked about. It seemingly just spawned into the world. Whereas Iron Lung, I think Mark and his team did everything that they could to really push the movie buzz with the limited tools that they had. Return to Silent Hill had an actual marketing team and they just fell the fuck off apparently. Despite this, I did see both movies. For Iron Lung, I watched it opening night on Friday, January 30th, and I went with my boyfriend and my sister. I wore my Markiplier shirt and my Lucky flannel and went in. The theater was packed full of Markiplier fans. Lots of Lucky flannel, lots of Unis Honest merch. It was great. The movie experience was fantastic in general. I went into this movie blind as well, which I think was a good choice, and if you haven't watched it yet, try and go into it blind too. But I also think that you could watch some of the gameplay of the game before going in as well to get a better idea of what's happening, but it's completely up to you. I watched a bunch of lore stuff after I saw the movie, and I also watched Markiplier play it after I saw the movie, and it was a good experience. The movie itself was great. I will get into it a bit more here, but I left the theater pleasantly surprised, and even my sister, who isn't a fan of these kinds of movies, said that it was great and she loved it too. And my boyfriend said it was really good too, and he also isn't a huge horror movie fan. Yes, I dragged two non-horror movie fans to see this horror movie because all of us like Markiplier, so I figured it would be a good time to go out and support him, and it was. Now for Return to Silent Hill. While me and Pokedad did have plans to go and see this in theater because both of us are huge Silent Hill fans, we didn't end up going just because we were both busy. After some reviews for the movie started to come out, me and Pokedad saw them and we both kind of became very worried, to say the least. We still wanted to see the movie, but it looked like it was not great. So, well, we sailed the seven seas, so to speak, and watched the movie that way. Funnily enough, in the version that we were watching, we saw someone get up and leave the fucking movie at the halfway mark, which was really funny and probably my favorite part of the whole movie experience, but I'm getting ahead of myself again. Once we finished this movie, Pokedad fell asleep, and unfortunately, I had to suffer through it alone, but I was coping by writing out notes I was going to use for my review and laughing at just how bad it was to witness. By the end, I was so happy I did not spend money to watch this piece of garbage because it was clear that the folks who worked on it didn't really care what they were doing, so why should I support that, you know? The experiences I had with these movies were so polar opposite, and it's just really weird to think about that after the fact. And trust me, these comparisons and experiences just become more painful as we will continue, so let's actually get get into this review. First things first, some housekeeping. I will be spoiling both of these movies because I want to go into details for both of them. I'll give a brief review of both of them at the beginning here, and then warn you all again when the spoilers will be discussed. If you have not seen Iron Lung, then I'd highly recommend watching it first without any spoilers, as I do think that going into the movie blind or just having the game knowledge is one of the best ways to experience it. So keep that in mind while watching this review. Notice how I did not say anything about Return to Silent Hill there. It is because I will be spoiling it, but what happens in that movie is already the equivalent of spoiled milk, so I mean, I don't feel as bad spoiling it here. I'm being so mean today. But Return to Silent Hill is honestly one of the most monumental bag fumbling moments I've ever witnessed, so I think I'm allowed to be a little mean. Okay, I think that we can actually continue on to the reviews now, starting with a very brief, spoiler-free review of Iron Lung. Iron Lung is great. I don't think that that would come off as a surprise to anyone here that that would be my opinion on this movie. I was on the edge of my seat the entire movie, beginning to end, and I mean that. I know a lot of people were saying that they have pacing issues with this movie, and yes, the pacing is slow, but I actually think that that added to the film as a whole. It is supposed to be slow, and that might not be for everybody, but it definitely was intentional, and it definitely was for me. I felt very anxious the entire movie, not knowing what was going to happen next, and uneasy at everything I was seeing. The build-up was great and the payoff was even better. And one thing I just absolutely loved about this movie is that when I left the theater, I left thinking. I left chewing on the world of Iron Lung, what everything meant, what the things were, and everything like that. It gave me a sense of uncovering a mystery, which is why I went home and watched not only Markiplier's playthrough of the game, but also iceberg videos, lore explained videos, and pretty much anything else I could get my hands on. It has been a while since a movie or game has made me feel this way, and I love when media really scratches this kind of mysterious and deeper meaning itch for me. It's why I love the FNAF series so much, for example, but Iron Lung was just perfect for that. It's funny because the Silent Hill 2 game was one that made me kind of have that same itch of uncovering mystery and symbolism after experiencing that game, and I did the same thing where I looked at playthroughs and iceberg videos and deep dives. Totally Pointless TV on YouTube has one of my favorite Silent Hill 2 deep dive videos, by the way, and I highly recommend checking it out if you want to get the full story of the game without playing it. And if you want to just see a playthrough of it, then I highly recommend Drop of Vanilla's playthrough for Silent Hill 2 because he's just really funny and it's really an enjoyable video to see him playing it. What I don't recommend as an alternative for playing the Silent Hill 2 game is watching Return to Silent Hill. This movie is not even just bad, it's a complete insult to the original story of the game, the character writing in the game, and the overall symbolism that the game has going for it. There is no mystery in the movie. There is no deeper meaning here. There is just random shit that happens and then the movie goes and slaps you in the face with the overall meaning of everything. It doesn't give you a chance to draw your own conclusions like the game did. Even as a movie itself and not as a game adaptation, I have no idea what they're doing. The dialogue is bad, the characters are one-dimensional as all hell, the acting is very mid, Maria's wig is god-awful. Which is such a small detail, but it's so distracting. And I don't even know if the acting is the actor's fault or if it's the fault of the writers or the director. Like, I'm really not sure who fumbled, but somebody fumbled. Maybe everyone fumbled, I don't know. The CGI looks so bad at times, and it's also extremely unnecessary. They did a lot of cool stuff with practical effects and sets, but then they slapped CGI all over the place for no reason. And they actually created plot holes and plot issues by introducing stuff that wasn't even in the original game. And probably the most annoying part of this movie for me is the pacing. While Iron Lung has pacing issues with it being slow for some folks, this movie has the complete opposite problem. The pacing is wild and all over the place. James, our main character, is just thrown into random situations and locations throughout the whole movie for no rhyme or reason, except to give it a feel that he's losing his mind, I guess. But it also makes me feel like I'm losing my mind, so I don't know if that was their intention. If it was, then disregard this whole video. This is clearly the best movie of 2026. In all seriousness, it's wild how these movies are so polar opposites of each other, despite sharing so many similarities when you start to break them down. And it's so clear that Mark had a really good grasp on what he was adapting and had passion and care for it and its themes and the story. Whereas Gans has shown us he really did not understand any of the source material, or maybe he just didn't care enough to properly adapt any of it it. So now we are going to lean into spoiler territory, so if you don't want spoilers for either of these movies, please skip to this timestamp to hear my final words, and come back to the middle of the video when you have watched the movies. Or at least when you've watched Iron Lung. I really don't give a shit if you watch Return to Silent Hill. Can you tell that I'm really not impressed by that movie? Okay, let's get on with it. So for starters, Iron Lung's set is just a submarine. We spend the whole movie in this one space with a very small, blurry look at what is outside. It's an enclosed space where the only view of anything is through a camera that takes grainy X-ray images of Simon's surroundings. It invokes the most claustrophobia. I never found this setting boring. I always felt uneasy and suffocated by it in a good way, like how a horror movie like this is supposed to make you feel. Most of the effects in Iron Lung are practical. The movement of the sub is all done with a rig setup, and the blood was not added in post, it was added into the set. From the setting and effects alone, you can see that Mark wanted to create an authentic experience and put as many details, big and small, into this film and the environment. He really wanted to make stuff look realistic, even in this sci-fi horror setting, and he really nailed it. He transferred the look and feeling of the game to the big screen perfectly and implemented a story that improved and grew from what the game set up for him to use. It all felt like it was right from the universe of Iron Lung from the beginning to the end. On the flip side of this, Return to Silent Hill relies way too much on CGI. They had actual dancers cast for the lying figures in this movie, and they decided that they needed to add some CGI on top of them, which was very unnecessary. I've seen the behind the scenes footage. There was absolutely no reason to put a bunch of CGI on top of these dancers besides getting rid of their arms in like the green screen and post and stuff like that. And maybe like adding some more gore to them, but I mean they could have easily done the gore with costumes and makeup, but no, they use CGI at every turn. Even the backgrounds were mostly CGI, which I get they wanted to make it look exactly like the games or whatever, but it just makes the whole movie look weird. Maybe I have a bias towards this though, because fun fact about me, the original two Silent Hill movies that came out in 2006 and 2012 were actually filmed in my hometown where I grew up, and while I don't live there anymore, it looks exactly the same. Like, it still looks like Silent Hill to this day. They could have filmed this there and kept the continuity of the first movies as well, but they filmed in a lot of built sets and then just CGI'd backgrounds everywhere, which gives a lot of weird lighting issues, and it just looks weird and synthetic. And this is where it differs from Iron Lung again, because while these backgrounds sure make the movie look like Silent Hill 2, it does not feel like Silent Hill 2. It's really super weird seeing these almost one-to-one remakes of the settings in the game, but then the characters, their stories, their motivations and actions are so far from what the game provided that it gives off a very fanfiction vibe to the whole story, and bad fanfiction at that. I even had a lot of hope for this movie within the first few scenes of it because they got a lot of the camera shots and acting so good and close to the game, but then as soon as James actually enters the town, that initial nostalgia completely wears thin, and I'm left with a familiar feeling in these scenes with extremely unfamiliar and downright annoying situations and characters. This movie had $20 million more than Mark's movie, and it just used it to put a bunch of CGI icing on top of a shitty script and plot rewrite that did not need to be there. When we look at these movies as video game adaptations specifically, Iron Lung without a doubt tops Return to Silent Hill in all the categories. Iron Lung was never this huge lore-heavy, narrative-heavy experience to begin with when it was just a game. In fact, even the lore update they released wasn't some huge story experience. It shed enough light on the world itself for players to understand it and its themes without giving them the answers right away, leaving room for theory crafting, which has proven to be a great way to engage a community over the course of the last few years. This is actually something Silent Hill has also done too, as there are multiple fan theories and different ways to look at the games. The Iron Lung movie expanded on that lore without going off the rails. It remains grounded in the universe David Szymanski set up for Mark to explore, and then it added more on top of that. Mark did work directly with David as well for this movie, and I think both of them working together really helped steer the movie in a wonderful direction where more world building can be explored in this visual medium without changing core aspects. The quiet rapture is explored more, and we get some answers, but not enough to ruin the mystery. Simon even mentioned some fan theories that came from the community as well by saying that maybe the quiet rapture didn't happen and the space station itself was teleported somewhere else. We never get a clear answer, but I think that's a good thing, as we get something to chew on. The creature that lives on this blood moon and the blood itself has its purpose and true nature slowly revealed over time to the audience, which is one of the other reasons I loved the little whispering audios throughout the whole thing, because once you get to the end and realize that that's the blood, which is alive and it's been talking to Simon this whole time, it makes everything come together and become so much more creepy. And we start to feel like the whole entity is much bigger than us, which is something many of the characters say in this movie as well in different contexts. The game itself gives you a baseline to create a story. It gives some information that Mark used to build on in a logical and creative way, expanding the universe without breaking the original meanings of the game and making everything feel more grand. He gives the main character more backstory that was only ever hinted at in the game and creates this entire personality and past for him that lines up with the ending. It also lines up with the story and the themes, and it lines up with the quiet rapture and the entity on this moon. We connect with him, we root for him, and in the end, we feel his sacrifice. If we are to go back to the Iron Lung game after the movie, this plot with Simon gives us a whole new look on the gameplay without changing the feeling or story of the game. This is why I think this is one of the best game adaptations we have seen in a while. Not to mention, it has actual gameplay aspects in it, which I feel like a lot of video game adaptations are missing. Simon actually has to navigate the ocean floor. He has to go take pictures of certain points of interest, and he has to follow a map. He gets flung into a different part of the map by the entity, which is something that happens in the game, and in the end, the frog creature or the eel, I don't know, it has multiple different names now, destroys the sub with Simon in there and he dies. This is all right from the game, and these mechanics were pulled off flawlessly. It shows that Mark clearly had a great understanding of the game and a huge passion for it, enough to make sure that these things translated into the movie well. The same cannot be said about Return to Silent Hill, like in the slightest. I really don't think I have ever seen a video game's core messages and themes be so fumbled before in a movie. Like, maybe the original Mario Bros. Movie is a close second, but at least that movie was fun to watch. This was really not. Silent Hill 2, the game, is a slow descent into madness as we control James Sunderland, a man who got a mysterious letter from his deceased wife telling him to go into Silent Hill to find her. He has no reason to believe that she is even still alive, but he is so tortured by her death that he goes to look for her anyways. We follow him meeting up with other tortured characters in the town with their own demons that they have to face, and we come to learn that the monsters we are seeing and fighting are all a part of James's guilt, and that the Silent Hill that we play in is his personal hell, here to torment him for what he did to his wife. And for those who might not know, James killed her. The game has so much symbolism, from the creatures you fight to the locations that you go to, from handwriting on the walls that suggest certain aspects of James' past, and characters like Maria who alter his perception of reality. Everything here matters to James directly. Nothing is unintentional. This is why you've probably heard Silent Hill fans complain when Pyramid Head is brought in for some random fan service shit in other games and movies in this franchise, because Pyramid Head is a manifestation of James's guilt, and that's all he should be. He's not supposed to be something else. He isn't anything else that the original movies or Silent Hill Homecoming or even Dead by Daylight wants you to think. In the game, James comes to this realization that Pyramid Head is a dark, twisted version of himself and his anger by uncovering messages in paintings, and then he kills Pyramid Head in the end before the final boss. And James can only kill him here because he has uncovered the truth about himself, about Mary, about Silent Hill as a whole. It's what gives him the ability to defeat Pyramid Head. Do you want to know what Pyramid Head does in the movie? He shows up randomly and James sees him and screams. Pyramid Head tries to fight James through metal bars. Pyramid Head then enters a random room, kills a creature that wasn't even in the original game, and then James literally sees Pyramid Head's face and sees that it's his own face, because we can't read into anything, we have to be shown it directly. And then he randomly shows up at another point in the movie where James commands him to kill Maria, and then James is painting a picture of himself and he paints a pyramid head head around his head in blood or red paint or something, and then he just sits there and he's sad. Where is the nuance? Where is the tension? Where is any of the symbolism? It's just a bunch of fucking baloney. James's descent in the movie isn't even a descent. It's just random shit happening to him at any given moment. One of the things that made Silent Hill 2 stand out from the rest of the games was that it was a contained story that was James's personal hell. To explain that Silent Hill can manifest in other ways than just the Order and Alessa. There is no other world sections in this game because James isn't in the other world. He is not connected to Alessa, nor is he there to be a part of the Order story. He is there because the evil of the town called him there to torment him. In the movie, they have the fucking other world sirens that go off, and then we shift into the other world and things rust and it's all nostalgic and scary. Like, no, the game did not have other world sections. It just had in and out of hellish landscapes without a transition. And the further you went into the game, the further James went into hell and the more hellish everything got. There is a moment in the game where the siren does sound, but it actively is there to signal Pyramid Head leaving. He leaves when it goes off. In the movie, Bro shows up and starts attacking James and Eddie while they try to rescue Laura. And honestly, don't even get me started on Eddie or Laura. Eddie is such a nothing character in this film, and I don't even know why he is there. In the original game, he had his own story arc and his own end, and he becomes a murderer as the town plays on his guilt and corrupts him. James ends up killing him as well. In the movie, he shows up, pukes in a toilet because that's how the game does it, and then he tells James to run away because Pyramid Head is here, and then I don't even think he's in the rest of the movie. Like, he straight up never returns again. And Laura makes me even more mad because in the game, it's stated many times that she does not see any of the monsters in Silent Hill at all, which goes towards the personal hell idea, as Laura is a little girl and doesn't have any demons to deal with, so she doesn't see any of the monsters in this town. And she never takes James seriously and messes around with him because she literally thinks the town is fine. In the movie, Laura sees monsters. She knows the town is hell and actively fucks with James just to make him upset and try to kill him. This is made so much worse by the fact that in the movie they decide that Laura is also Mary, but it gets worse because another character, Angela, who I love from the games, is also completely rewritten and destroyed in this movie because she too is also Mary.
What kind of fool do you take me for? He's
Mary. Mary.
You're
Mary.
I'm
Mary.
Are there any other
Mary.
words I should know about?
Meow.
The movie clearly reveals this to us by showing a flashback of James at Mary's tombstone that shows that her name is Mary Angela Laura Cray. What the fuck is that? Angela as a character is so deep and depressing. She is a survivor of abuse who struggles with her mental health the entire game, and the boss that you fight against, the Abstract Daddy, is quite literally her version of Pyramid Head. It is a manifestation of the abuse that she suffered at her father's hand, and the room that this boss takes place in is also symbolic of the abuse and trauma. In the end, Angela walks into flames and James is left there to just watch her as she fades away and accepts her fate. It is so sad, but no, in the movie she shows up, has her iconic graveyard scene, and then she randomly is there for her knife scene that holds no weight in this movie whatsoever because she is then only brought back to showcase that she is also Mary. And then the Abstract Daddy fight is shown and it has the same design and the room is there with the same symbolism because we are shown maybe a few scenes in flashbacks where we find out Mary's dad might have maybe ran a cult in Silent Hill, but that's about it. The entire representation of abuse has absolutely nothing to do with Mary, and using the same symbolism for it in the movie as it does in the game, but not even connecting that symbolism is so fucking stupid. Oh, and yeah, Mary is now suddenly a part of a cult that existed in Silent Hill that wasn't the Order, it was something else, and James and her have a huge fight about it because the cult was feeding her blood, and James tells Mary that they need to run away from Silent Hill because of this cult, but then Mary gets sick because the cult was feeding her blood, and that's how she ends up in the hospital. Excuse me, what the fuck are we doing? There is no cult whatsoever in the Silent Hill 2 games that Mary is connected to. Her dad was not a cult leader. She didn't end up in the hospital because her weird cult friends were feeding her blood. Like, no. Just no. All of this is just addition additions that the movie has made, and it does not amplify the story in any way, shape, or form. If you ask me, it makes it about a billion times worse. Now, instead of Mary and James being happy together, like in the game, Mary is in a cult and James and her argue about it. Instead of Mary ending up in the hospital because sometimes people get sick and it is a lot of grief, sorrow, stress, and sadness to deal with when it comes out of nowhere and there's nothing you can do about it, it's because Mary's cult friends fed her blood. The entire premise that Mary and James's relationship is built off of, and the sorrow and tragedy it falls under when Mary gets sick out of the blue, is completely gone and replaced with culty supernatural bullshit, and it frames it almost like it could have been prevented if it wasn't for these meddling cultists. James and Mary aren't even married in this movie. Like, it's so dumb, I just can't. James and Mary were dating, they got into an argument about the cult thing, and then they broke up. And then James got a letter from her to come back to Silent Hill after them not seeing each other for a while because they broke up. Or honestly, I don't even know if that's what happens in this movie. The movie shows this. It shows them breaking up and then James just getting a letter from her. But then it also shows us a bit later on that James actually stayed with her when she was in the hospital. And then the nurses are saying like, oh, he won't leave her side. How cute, and like weird stuff. I don't even know what they're talking about and what is happening, because it shows her in the hospital. It shows her dying and James is upset about it. But then it also shows later that James did kill her in the hospital, which I am sure a lot of you will be like, oh, that's like the game then. But no, actually, the way that it's played out in the movie is completely different to how it's played out in the games, and it effectively renders most of the symbolism with the monsters completely pointless. Every aspect of this movie just bits on the game's story and characters and deeper meanings to an insane degree, and it makes me really upset because the story of Silent Hill 2 is such a wonderful one, even if it is sad and dark and depressing. We aren't supposed to want to sympathize with James in the game, but we almost always find ourselves doing that to some extent, and it makes the audience feel torn between his actions and his mindset and what he came to Silent Hill to do. In the movie, they want you to feel bad for James because they want to portray him as this misunderstood hero. It's so fucking stupid. And the end of this movie is so bad, but I will get to that in a moment. It's weird because both Iron Lung and Return to Silent Hill are movies about guilt in a way. For Iron Lung, Simon grapples with the guilt of what happened at Filament Station, where him and a group of others blew up the station and killed the people living there. This is why he is a convict in the first place. But he also deals with the guilt of his past, where it explains that he was known as Simon the Butcher, killing tons of people. And at the beginning of the movie, he also deals with the guilt when he accidentally hurts people using the camera from the submarine because it's an X-ray camera and he doesn't know that. And with all of this guilt, the blood entity actually uses this to drive him even more crazy. This might be leaning a bit more into theory territory, but if we are to believe that the Quiet Rapture was like a biblical rapture, that means everyone left was not worthy of going to heaven. And we are to assume that they are left in this cosmic hell space. The blood entity and everything in it are demons tormenting Simon, playing on his guilt, his loss, his worries, and everything in between. It gives him hope and then it takes it away. The idea of light being beyond the veil is just a fancy way of saying heaven is the only place where light is left. And here in this hell, we only have the ghost light of dying stars. Simon is trapped in the sub, yes, but looking at it at a bigger lens, he is also trapped here in hell. As the movie progresses, he comes to terms with his wrongdoings more and more until he accepts the fact that he was a bad person in his past, and he can't just erase that. Him saying you want the butcher to the entity isn't just a really cool action line, it's him accepting his past and who he was, and that he was a murderer and a bad person. In the end, he rescues the black box that Ava wants him to save, and the last shot of the movie shows us that it did survive. He does this because he is trying to do one last good thing for the world and for humanity. He stops thinking about himself and his own freedom and decides, even though he lived a life of crime and evil, he will do this last thing, the last thing he ever does, for good, and for something bigger than himself. He fights back against the entity, the sub explodes in the fish's mouth, and he dies. But the black box that can help humanity is safe. It's a sad ending, but it's Simon's own attempt at redemption. It's a great ending, just from a story perspective and a character perspective. Not to mention the effects and the acting in those last scenes, it was incredible. Return to Silent Hill is supposed to be about guilt. This was a main theme of the games, James's guilt that he was grappling with after he killed Mary. And if you were thinking, well, maybe the movie picked a different main theme than the games and didn't want to focus on guilt so much. No, the description of the movie starts with, "Guilt is a place you can never leave," all in caps. So clearly they want to stress that. But this story doesn't feel like it's about guilt at all. In the game, James kills Mary. No matter what ending you get, he kills her. And he, of course, feels guilty about that. He kills her because he doesn't want to see her sick anymore. But it's not out of pity. It's because he feels trapped and tied to her. In the game, you can hear voice lines where Mary begs James to be with her until the end, find her pretty again, and love her like he used to. She also does have moments where she almost wishes she were dead. It's such a complex thing for Mary to go through, where she longs for the love her and James once had, but also deals with how he is feeling trapped because of her illness. It's sad, it's heartbreaking, and the reveal that James killed her all along makes everything feel so much worse. In the movie, Mary actually begs James to kill her. She asks him to kill her and basically helps him kill her. So the guilt he feels is drastically different from what it actually was in the games. The ending the movie goes with is the in-water ending equivalent, but it's so tonally different and fucking stupid in the movie. James also dies at the end of this movie, just like Simon does in Iron Lung, but James almost doesn't accept that he was a bad person, because in the movie, he isn't portrayed as such. He's portrayed as someone who just listened to his wife's request to kill her. He's made to be sympathetic instead of complex like the games portrayed his story. And when James drives into the water at the end of the movie to die, it's because he just misses Mary. It becomes a Romeo and Juliet thing instead of him succumbing to his guilt. And then we see some flashback where it's an alternate version of the beginning of the movie where James actually takes Mary away from Silent Hill and her cultist friends and her cultist father. So you can either see it as he did drive into the water and die and this is just like heaven or something, or him driving into the water wasn't real and this whole experience was a flashback or something, or maybe he dies and it's a loop and he's alive again and makes different choices. I literally have no idea. The ending is so ridiculous. They tried to have two endings at the same time and both aren't leaving the audience feeling conflicted with James as they should be. He's made out to be this sad emo boy who had to kill his girlfriend because she asked him to because she was poisoned by a cult. It's so stupid and takes out all the nuance of his character and the game's story. Simon died for something in Iron Lung. James just died for himself. He didn't learn anything. His character didn't change. He had no arc besides just, I guess, forgetting that he killed Mary and then remembering and then deciding to just off himself. Like, I don't know. It's such a nothing ending. And I have no idea why they chose to go this route. The entire movie gives off the vibe that Gans had no idea what the actual point of Silent Hill 2 was, but the ending just solidifies that for me. I do want to add a little note here as I'm editing, as I have seen around the internet that apparently Gans said that he was told to add in the cult stuff and other shit by the executives and he didn't want to add it, but I really don't know if that's true. I couldn't really find any actual sources saying this like an interview or something. It was kind of just in the comments on some reviews and stuff. So I'm taking it with a huge grain of salt. But if that is the case, it just kind of shows Iron Lung in a better light too, because it shows that movies shouldn't have out of touch executives working on them behind the scenes and pushing directors to do stuff because the end product will suffer from it. Hopefully Iron Lung's success will make more higher ups realize that they just gotta let directors do what they have envisioned. But yeah, anyways, I wanted to add that because I did see that floating around and I don't want somebody in the comments to get mad at me for blaming Gans if it wasn't actually his choice. But again, I don't know with this guy because he also put Pyramid Head in the first Silent Hill movie for no reason, and that ripped away Pyramid Head's meaning and was the start of everyone completely ignoring the reason for Pyramid Head's existence in the first place. But anyways, all in all, looking at these two movies side by side has made me appreciate Iron Lung a lot more than I already did. My Markiplier bias aside, I think that he did a fantastic job with this movie, and I think that critics seem to miss a lot of the positives of this. It's truly amazing what he did with the budget that he had and the passion was clearly there. He worked so hard on this film and put his all into it, and my god, it shows. I'm so happy that Iron Lung is succeeding as a film because it's just such a wonderful example of what humans are capable of when they have passion, creativity, and an insane work ethic. A lot of movies I feel that are coming in the next few years, especially with the continued rise of AI, are going to be such soulless slop features, and I'm just happy Mark was able to make something meaningful. As someone who honestly hadn't watched any of the gameplays of Iron Lung or played the game myself, as it just didn't really interest me from what I was seeing, I am so glad that I went to go see this movie. Iron Lung as a game itself, I don't think is something that I would have picked up and played on my own, so I'm happy that I was able to experience the story and world, and then some, with the movie Mark made. And now I am fully invested in the universe of Iron Lung and so ready for more. This is also why I'm just so sad that Return to Silent Hill was such a mess. Silent Hill 2 as a game can be very daunting for people to pick up and play, especially the original. I think the Blooper Team remake definitely opened the door for more people to play this story with modern controls, and I think that the remake really hits all of the aspects of the original game, especially with the story, so I'm glad that it did introduce more people to this world and this story. But there are still folks out there who maybe don't like survival horror games or don't like games at all that would have an interest for a good complex horror story like Silent Hill 2. Pokemon, for example, loves horror movies, but she doesn't like video games. The old one has some tough to get a hold of tank controls for her, and the new one's camera gives her motion sickness, so the movie is probably the only way that she would get to see the story of Silent Hill 2 portrayed, outside of me like sitting there and just explaining it to her for hours. But I actively told her not to watch this movie because it was absolute dog water. And that's the sad part. So many people who don't play video games and wouldn't have picked up Silent Hill 2 now miss out on the story, and maybe they'll go and see this movie and think, this is what everybody is saying is the best Silent Hill game? This is ass. It is just sad that that's going to be so many people's first introductions to Silent Hill 2, and it's just completely missed every mark imaginable. And it's weird because this movie had an exact blueprint to work off of from the game. I'm not saying that they needed to make an exact replica, but they needed to keep the main story, which is one of the reasons this game is so highly regarded, intact. And it's weird because with the set designs and locations, they clearly did want to make a one-to-one recreation, but just not where it counts, apparently. Oof, okay. I feel like I probably said all I need to say. This script is at 7,150 words currently, which if you have made it this far in the video, thank you for listening to me ramble this long. I usually end these review videos with some kind of star ranking for the movies. I'm pleased to announce that 1, I'm wanting to do more movie reviews on this channel in the future because I really do enjoy them, and 2, because of that, I have started a Letterboxd account. So if you want to check out what I'm watching, some of my reviews, and even see my first thoughts before I can make an actual review video, then feel free to follow me there. I'll include a link in the description. And my rankings on Letterboxd for these two movies are also up there, so here are the final verdicts. For Iron Lung, unsurprisingly, I gave it 5 stars, 5 out of 5. And Return to Silent Hill was actually the first movie that I reviewed and rated on Letterboxd, and it was half a star. Because I guess I laughed really loud seeing James driving around smoking a joint like 10 seconds into the film. Anyways, that is all. I am glad Iron Lung is successful. I'm glad Mark made the movie, and I hope that Hollywood takes some notes. And I hope that this has given more independent filmmakers hope that they can do just about anything. And I hope to God they stop making Silent Hill movies. Like, straight up after this one, I don't want any more. They just keep fucking failing at making Silent Hill movies, and they just need to stop. Unless they make a movie of Silent Hill Homecoming, because that could potentially be the funniest fucking movie in the entire world. Not to mention that Homecoming was a game trying to copy the Silent Hill 2006 movie, so if they made it into a movie, it would be a movie copying a game that copied a movie that copied a game. Like, in concept, that sounds like a fucking nightmare drug trip and would be so hilarious to make. My actual dream blunt rotation is Alex Shepard from Homecoming, James Sunderland from Return to Silent Hill specifically, not the game, just the movie, and Jon Snow's character from Revelations, whose name I literally don't remember. Please make it happen, Gans. You are the only one who could pull this type of absurdity out of your French ass, please.